Welcome to the Cyber Sangha podcast. Cyber Sangha is a program of free live broadcasts, launched in 2009 by renowned teacher and author Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche. Join us as we draw on ancient Tibetan wisdom to discover how to connect with our best self and live to our highest potential. The following conversation, Inner Heat Practices, Tummo and Wim Hof Method, happened on December 14th, 2021 as a Science and Spirituality Dialogue with Wim Hof, Elissa, Epel, Geshe Tenzin Wangyal, and host Alejandro Chaoul-Reich. This was part of a year-long series, A Year of Body, Speech, and Mind. This content is for informational purposes only. Listeners should consult medical professionals for any physical or mental health concerns. Please use headphones and do not meditate while driving or operating machinery.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Alejandro Chaoul. I'll be the host for this dialogue today. Looking really forward to it. I actually saw one of our speakers dropped into the Zoom and left, so hopefully he'll be back soon. For those of you who know Cyber Sangha, welcome. Those of you who are new, welcome too. Cyber Sangha is kind of the brainchild of Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche, and we're so delighted to have him here in our dialogue today. And what we're planning to do today is to talk about these practices, both ancient and modern, about bringing heat into our body. So in a way, how can our mind help our body in different ways? And so we have Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche, an ancient Tibetan master, Wim Hof, who will join us soon, and Dr. Elissa Epel, a researcher in this area. So I'll say a little more about them. But before that, I also wanted to remind you that with Cyber Sangha, we have a couple more events. So let me say first, the whole year we've been doing practices of body, breath, and mind. So each month we're focusing on not only a dialogue, but Rinpoche leading a practice, and then a 24-hour full moon practice. So for this month that we're finishing with the dialogue, but we start already in 2 days the part of mind. And Rinpoche will lead a practice on this Friday at 11 a.m. New York time called Spaciousness as the Doorway to Your Inner Refuge, entering into the Nirmanakaya. The next day, on the 18th, Saturday, it's full moon. So we'll have all around the world will be practicing, kind of passing the baton from the US to Finland to Spain to Colombia and coming all around. So we start at 10 a.m. US New York time and we finish at that time next day. And so welcome to all these practices. We finished the mind practice not at the December, since there's so much going on in December. We'll finish it in January 11th. We have our last dialogue of these 12 will be on mind with Mike Grossick and Elissa. And so we will looking forward to that. So today we have, as you know, Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche for many is someone that you know well. He's been my teacher for 30 years, and I love to continue being with him even now in Zoom. And he's the founder of not only Cyber Sangha, but also of Ligmincha Institute within the Burn Buddhist tradition here in the US, but has worldwide centers, 35 centers worldwide, and he's been teaching for 3 decades in the West. And he's known for his style of not only teaching in English, but also to be able to understand our minds. And within that, his interest in these kind of dialogues, his interest in research. So we've been also having not only these 12 different dialogues, but having conferences at Ligmincha that we call Serenity Rich Dialogues. And so where we bring researchers like Elissa and practitioners, and we get together to discuss more in depth these topics. So Rinpoche has been kind of the heart of these, not only of the center, but of these dialogues. So welcome, Rinpoche. And together with Rinpoche, we have here Dr. Elissa Epel, a friend that I know for many, many years. It's been wonderful to share many conferences, many practices, many thoughts and panels. And Elissa is a researcher at UCSF, at University of California, San Francisco, in the Department of Psychiatry. But she's also the best-selling author of a book that you might know, The Telomere Effect, that she co-wrote with Elizabeth Blackburn, who actually got the Nobel Prize of Medicine for discovering the telomeres. A wonderful book. But also she's done a lot of research in noticing how telomeres can help us notice when we are stressed and what's happening in other aspects of our body. And then she will talk also about now her research with different contemplative practices. She's also in the Mind and Life Institute. And so she's been interested in this dialogue of not just what's happening in the mind, but how that affects the body and vice versa. And so, Elissa, welcome. We're so happy that you're here with us today.
It's really an honor to be here. And I had the pleasure of being at Serenity Ridge, Lake Mincha, for one of the dialogues with Rinpoche and getting to experience and learn from the Bon Buddhist traditions, which are just beautiful.
Thank you, Elissa. And we, of course, welcome you. Hopefully, when we open up again next year, we hope that the dialogue will be in person. And so hopefully you can join us there as well. For those of you who don't know, the next person who should be here soon, Wim Hof, is also known as the Iceman. And he's from Netherlands, and he's actually in Netherlands, so time difference as well. But he's a international speaker and particularly known by his extreme athletic ability of getting into ice and finding a method of breathing that changes physiologically different aspects, actually things that maybe Elissa can help us understand a little better. He developed what he calls the Wim Hof Method, and he calls it that it's a method for people of all ages to control their bodies and their minds. So as he will talk more about it, it involves different combination of breathing frequencies. And I really look forward to having him here soon. I have to say that I did meet one of his students, Shirin Youssef, here in Houston, and I did practice that, including getting into the bathtub full of ice. So it's a very interesting method, and it has some interesting comparisons with Tummo, which is this ancient technique that Rinpoche is a master of, and so that's why we wanted to talk about this. So as we wait for Wim Hof, I think it's a great time to hear from the speakers that we have here. And Elissa, I always like to start for people to know us personally. And so I wanted to ask you if you could share what brought you into this interest, coming from your interest in psychology and then from psychology to really this connection, this researching the mind-body connection, and particularly the topic of today, breath.
Thank you, Alejandro. I actually came from the body, thinking I was going to be a medical Western healer, a doctor. And then I, really clearly realized what was fascinating to me about the body was the mind and how much the mind could control our physiology, our health, how much it could shape it. And so that did lead me to become a health psychologist and a clinical psychologist, but really focusing on the mind-body connection. So all of these scientific papers, they always have, I always study how, some physiological marker and, the stress response, or for the last almost, 18 years, it's been what's happening in the cell. And so as you mentioned, with my colleagues here, we've been studying how cells age and the telomeres, and they're very interesting. The telomeres, we have them in every cell. They respond to the stress of the biochemical environment of the cell. So they're very responsive to our lifestyle and also our mindset. So they're associated with more positive outlook, longer telomeres, more optimism. And then when we also see that chronic stress and depression lead to shorter telomeres. But what's so interesting is we've now done, and many people have done meditation studies. And so learning meditation, practicing intensive meditation is associated with longer telomeres, including loving kindness meditation. And today, we also know they protect us from COVID. So longer telomeres predict less severe infections from COVID. So they're important for our how our immune system, how it's able to respond to challenges.
Thank you, Lisa. And if I can ask you a little more, can you tell us how this helped you in your own life? Like, did you bring the research into your practice and say, oh, I'm researching these practices. Maybe I should, I practice some of this as well.
It actually was that direction. It came from studying, running meditation trials and using these, typical measures we use, like the perceived stress scale, and then realizing that we know so little about the phenomena, and we're using these very crude measures. So it was only through the practice, I think, that the field got much better at understanding how to measure what is mindfulness, what is attention, and what is it about the nervous system and how our body responds that we can measure in a very granular or careful way. So I think the field has gotten very exciting. And for me, I certainly started from an intellectual place of curiosity and then experiencing and embodying the experience and feeling there's, how do we understand the magic to this, the spiritual part, and the feelings that we are interconnected. We don't measure those so well yet, but we're getting better.
Thank
And
you.
maybe, yeah. So I remember, first of all, welcome, Elissa. Wonderful to see you. And so a long time ago at the Serenity Reach and Dialogue, when if I remember correctly, it was a long time ago, that one of your research about telomere and the old practitioners and the more new practitioners, the effects were even equally or better. I don't remember.
That's
even
right. Yes.
Even a beginner practitioner, so that they can with the meditation effects have fast. The reason why I want you to emphasize a little bit also, because we have a lot of new people, new audience here, people who believe in, maybe never heard meditation or think it's difficult. It's for others, not for me. Maybe I'm not good enough to do it. It might not affect me. I'm new. So somehow, maybe if you want to say a few words about that, and maybe also many people might not know even what telomere is, so maybe just a few words. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, I should define it. Thank you. So the telomeres are the tips of the chromosomes, and they're in every single cell in our body, and they help. They are listening. They're sensitive to the environment, and so when they experience a lot of stress in the cell, oxidative stress, cortisol, they send out signals, help, we need to protect the cell, protect the genes, which are very sensitive. The DNA can be damaged. And so either the telomerase, this enzyme that protects them, increases, it goes way up and says, restore, and the telomere stabilizes, builds, gets longer. So that's one response to stress. Or the telomerase might go down with chronic stress, and the cell says, we give up, we should pass away, we should die. The cell could turn into cancer or something worse. Wim, welcome. So happy you made it back, and I see that
you're muted, Wim.
Okay.
Now? Is it now okay?
Now it's
I
okay.
can hear you.
All right.
And so I was just
Hey.
finishing one point about meditation, which is in our studies of telomerase and meditation, and in other studies of epigenetics and meditation, the benefits grow when you practice more. So there's dose response relationships. The longer you practice, the longer your telomeres in some studies. But when we look at the acute changes, for example, in our meditation study, actually this one was mantra meditation that you remember, Rinpoche, the telomerase increased over a week only in those who had already had some training of the mind. They were already practiced. So when they went to the retreat center, they were able to sink in very quickly. And it's very important to remember that the just because it's hard, it's still good for you. You're still training, and the benefits grow and grow. And when I've read this breath literature, what's so fascinating to me, it's nothing is simple about breath. So many parameters, so many different types of breath that cause different changes. But what's fascinating is there's again a training component, and people who are sensitive to anxiety, sensitive to feelings in their body, and they worry, maybe their heart is beating too fast, or it makes them anxious to feel the body's nervous system. They need more training, they need more patience, they need more time, because the immediate effects of slowing the breath for them can actually trigger a hyperventilation and more anxiety. And so these studies that I'm looking at are real big clues to the patience we need to give ourselves when we're trying new breath techniques, the compassion of this is a process.
Thank you, Elissa, and we'll get more into that part as well. Wim, welcome. I know you were driving to get and welcome. It's so good to meet you, even in this forum. And we were talking with Rinpoche, which he seems that you two actually have met in Amsterdam many years ago. So again,
I remember
Rinpoche, Wim
I was
Hof.
talking to him, say, I am lower than the dog.
You came to in the hotel and we met together. We had a nice conversation, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
We had a great conversation about breathing, Tummo. We talked about the retentions and how that affects deeply into our physiology, which normally is not taking place whatsoever. And we have astounded signs since then, and that it is science. We have astounded science. That is our current paradigm, our current belief of what we are physiologically able to do within our bodies. And if we look to the contemporary conditions and problems the existent paradigm and medical understanding is dealing with, we can take so much away of that just by getting into breathing exercises. Breathing exercises, we are able to become the alchemist within ourselves and alter our blood flow within 10 minutes, bring down inflammation. I mean, 5 million people got killed since the beginning of COVID, but 60 to 70 million people die every year of inflammation. And we showed in 2014, that was after I met you, Rinpoche, Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche, which was very honorable and great, but I'm still lower than the dog. I mean, I'm humble, I'm little, but I'm going to change the world. I'm going to show that the breath, the life force, the being divine, being the alchemist within us is there. And now we come together as from different angles, experts from different angles, just to talk common sense, because the world is crazy. that it's in confusion. It doesn't not know what is autonomy over our body, over our life force. And so we got to bring this. We got to transcend religion, and we got to bring something that unites us all in the world as one people, namely through the greatest power of the universe, which is love. And love
Thank,
comes when you go with the breath into the full autonomy of yourself. Then you become unconditionally in love what you feel and what you are. And then the mind will be able to neurologically grow to the sky and beyond and back. And we can live up to the purpose of the universe itself. It is going through love. It is going through the breath. And that's where we are. We are standing at the gateway to the dimensions of the inner power everybody has, but nobody seems to know the key. And we have to hand it over.
thank you, Wim. Thank you. What a great introduction. Wonderful. We're so excited about this dialogue. Rinpoche, you've been trained in this ancient method of Tummo in the
Maybe
monastery for
Alex,
a long time.
sorry
Yes,
interrupting you. So maybe you can, as usual, you might wanted to hear a little bit more Wim, his personal story about the journey that
sure.
like what lead him to this path or his path.
Sure,
Yes,
Rinpoche, sure.
if that is so, I'm delighted. Thank you. I'm so honored to speak to all of you, especially right now, Tenzin, because we got a common past. And with that, we have a common past in our ancestral lives. And now we are going to show through the DNA studies that we are able to get so much deeper into the DNA and so much more into the genetical hereditary past. We are able to take away the trauma, not only existent from this life, but also the past lives. And this was my thing when I was 12. I saw cruelty, I saw abuse, corruption, exploitation, wars, and they seem to be thinking that it is normal. I thought, this is sick, this is not good. So something needs to be done. And what? I don't know, but I'm going to do it. That led me on the path, on a spiritual path. Through my spirit, I had to acknowledge insight from wisdom inside, which is existent everywhere, but to connect with that through my internal efforts. At that time, I was interested at 12 years into psychology, into Hinduism, Buddhism, into esoteric practices. And that grew and it grew and it grew. And when I was 17, I was a debating kind of mind, philosophizing all the time. It was like a hamster, ongoing, 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 ongoing. And then I met cold water. I felt attraction, intuitive attraction to go in. I went in and I was playing with the thin layer of ice around me, and I felt, hey, this is not cold. Great way to feel myself in the depth. Not, at that moment, I was not thinking, I was feeling it. So it began to open up the deep physiology of ours. In the West, we are mostly through our thinking brain, too much thinking, we are disconnected from deep feeling, from our deeper control over our physiology, the way we by birthright are born with, to become happy, strong, and healthy. A happy man doesn't go to war. A happy man is not into possession. He is unconditionally there. We have forgotten about it. We are into selling and buying, and we are buying anything. Thoughts. We are buying into thoughts of what other people think, but we don't feel. And this feeling, which is the cornerstone of the universe, it is the family. The family where love should be there, strong love, which is able to guarantee happiness, strength, and health in every home of the world. The mother in Tehran, and in New York is the same. They want prosperity, happiness, strength, health to their children. And now we are living up in differences. But that what unites us is the love for our children. And that will be the future, because we will show the keys how to enter inside of us through the breath, through the control, through the studies. We will show that the best is there for everybody. You cannot buy it, but you can obtain it through practice. A practice which should be shown from primary school on. And it took me 45 years to get through into the world, having a lot of following. And now I'm reaching about 100 million people. But now in January, I will do 12 episodes with the BBC. I will show people to be able to get a absolute sense of control within 6 episodes, wherein because of their chronic ailments, they could not get in 10 or 20 years of medical treatment. In 6 episodes, I will show that the natural power to heal of trauma, of physical inability, of a disease, anything, inflammation, you can obtain because you are born with a healing power to heal anything that is happening to you and to your children. And then comes self-confidence, deep self-confidence, powerful. And this is the way we got to heal the world, by bringing the greatest of knowledge. That is love. And that's what we do. We do it here, and we analyze and we talk common sense from our angles. But in the end, we are going to bring love. And I'm going to reach me alone. I will be able to reach me, ego, no ego, we go. We go, and where is that? I will reach through showing that people, celebrities, within 6 episodes, after 10 to 20 years or 30 years of pills and medicines, are able to get back into autonomy they have never felt and seen, which is by birthright theirs. I will awaken that within 13 days of filming, in 12 episodes in primetime BBC, which will be broadcasted all over the world. And then there will be a Hollywood film about my life, because they think it is interesting. Let's go. Let's do it. Whatever it takes, my mission is to bring love and understanding how to maintain, to obtain that love powerfully in every family in the world. And that's the discussion here all about. Prove me wrong, or say where I'm going not good, because my mission is love to the world, but I can be taught in any moment, because I'm lower than the dog.
Thank you, Wim. Thank you. That was wonderful. Rinpoche. So, there's so much in here, and Wim, I wanted to mention, with some of my students, we've been looking at reading James Nestor's book on breath, that of course mentions you, and some of the students probably are in the audience and are really interested in this, and so thank you for bringing that, and your mission that why you're doing this. So Rinpoche, if you wanted to, in whichever way you want to express, one way that I was thinking was, you've been trained in a monastery with a lot of different kinds of breathing, particularly, so you can, if you want to talk about the breathing, but particularly about Tummo maybe, and how is this practice something that becomes integral in your path, and how does it is part of the awakening of the this life force energy that Wim was also talking about.
First, thank you, Wim. That was nice, energizing. And again, welcome, Elissa. So I think what Elissa and Wim both said, different ways, that I think first of all, that we all as a human being, sentient being, not going beyond human being, we all have a potentiality in ourselves, which is the essence of the teaching, that who we are and what we can do, how we can heal, is our potentiality. It's nothing new. This is just a basic, our innate quality, and through all these different teachings, I think, as Elissa was talking about, the mind being important part of trying to steady the body, and then realize the mind is important. And then in ancient teaching traditions, we always talk about mind, breath, has the body, breath, and mind. But now when talking a lot about breath, but then in the West, generally, mind, body is the breath, even there's no place for the breath. So as in the tradition, there's always so much knowledge about it, and also particularly anywhere from starting from the simple notion of prevention of disease, healing, or even the winds are they're referred as precious winds or medicinal winds. So basically, there's no question about that the breath is a medicine. Breath is alive. I mean, we don't breathe. You don't just survive. Basically, there's no question about it. So there's so much. Definitely, there's so much knowledge there in mind. There is in breath. There is our relationship with our body. I guess one simple thing is that this just makes me feel, both when Elissa and Win was talking, that all our audience, I think, to just somehow having a little bit more trust in yourself, that you do have your potentiality to take care of yourself. If you're able to create sickness, you can also heal the sickness. If you're able to create problem, you can also resolve the problem. If you're able to feel down, you can also feel upward. So we do have those potentiality, but sometimes I think we don't look at that side of ourselves enough. So, I mean, just talking about the Tummo, yeah, so if in particularly talking about the breath, I know maybe it seems like a lot of people are interested more about Tummo and breath and all that part. So if you think about a Tummo also, it's a breath. There are so many different kinds of breath, and every kind of breath has its own impact, and every kind of breath has a different kind of impact. Every different breath might be related to even different organs in ourselves, and how you breathe, how strong you breathe, how retention you have or not, they all might have a different effects. And in Tibetan tradition is a simple. They say one of the simple thing they say. I mean, not simple thing. I guess is a very complicated thing, to bring the subtle wind and subtle consciousness into the central channel. So we say in Tibetan is a lungsem tawa. So bringing the subtle wind and subtle awareness into the central channel. Basically, subtle wind and subtle awareness is basically referring to ego-less pain identity, ego, personality, afflictions, destructive emotions. These emotions, which are connected with a particular kind of wind, breathing should help to reduce them more and more and more, to the point you reach a level of very subtle breath, which is not directly related to any of these afflicted emotions or egoistic emotions. So that the awareness is very subtle, very pure. Same way, the wind, which is together with that awareness, is very subtle and it's very pure. And that particular wind, when they merge together, they have the healing power, because they are not a destructive emotion. They are not driven by pain identity. They are purely existing, and it has its own full potential quality. So more we are able to kind of understand that, able to meditate, experience that, we're able to bring it, then I think there's a more healing powers and benefits are there. So that is what I think Elissa's research is. I think that's partly the Wim practice is, or many other practices. They're linked. They're very connected. So anyway, that's all what we just wanted to say.
Thank you, Rinpoche. Thank you. So, Elissa, we've been talking about this different, specifically breath practices, and as Rinpoche is saying, kind of bringing it into the central channel. Now, we spoke many times about different kinds of breathing practices, and you've done research in many different kinds of things, how they affect different aspects of lifestyle. What brought you specifically to interest in this method? I remember, I think it was 2 years ago when we were in Esselen and we were talking about Tummo and Wim Hof Method, and we were sharing, and and you were telling me about you were starting this research. So if you can tell the audience a little more about your interest in this particular research, and of course, whatever you can share. I know that it's still not finished, so whatever you can actually share.
There's layers and layers to learn, because we can look at what people feel. We can look at the blood and the cells and the nervous system. So we're trying to look at all of that. And so for me, I've been studying meditation and yoga, and these are practices where everything changes, the breath changes, and to directly focus on altering the breath is so beautiful, and how specific it is, and the different ways that breath can affect physiology. And so we know that the pace, the slowness of the breath causes a lot of changes to the nervous system. If we can bring our breath from 15 breaths per minute to 6 or 5 or 4, we're turning on our vagal tone, our anti-stress response. And I believe in the Wim Hof method that it gets to the same point where when we've gone through acute stress, hormetic stress, our body recovers with a beautiful, strong anti-stress response, and our vagal tone, it probably goes up afterward. We're trying to measure and understand these processes. So the ability that's called vagal breathing or resonant breathing, the ability to slow, it's very profound. The ability to increase the rate and create the inner heat also has phenomenal effects in different ways. And we can change the biochemistry. We can change the blood, the oxygen to carbon dioxide level, and that can create ecstatic states. It can create energy and elevation and alertness. So there's so much that can be altered, that the ancient Tibetan practices have refined and have different pranayamas for. And so we're now in the lab getting to study different breath techniques. And I have the good fortune to work with a world-class psychophysiologist, my colleague here, Wendy Mendez. And she brought Wim into her lab, and she had him just breathe. And Wim, she told you that your heart rate, your vagal tone, your heart rate variability was like a 18-year-old. Do you remember?
Yeah, I do.
It was, probably from all these practices you do, but we all, we want to have a good resting vagal tone. And so the practices in the short term might cause vagal withdrawal in the sympathetic response with the heat. But then it's what happens all the rest of the time. And when we sleep, that is important for health. So what we have found is that whether we're slowing breathing and teaching some mindful breathing, or whether we're creating the hormetic stress, the Wim Hof breathing, people with high depressive symptoms and high stress, they both get better. There's a healing to the suffering. We did this during COVID, so there's a lot of high stress and depression, and people got dramatically better within 3 weeks. And it didn't matter which method we were using. Of course, they're very different, But we're learning, of course, that there are, when it comes to emotional well-being, there are many paths, and the different breathing paths, whether it's the high arousal or these slowing and relaxation, they're both creating this, this well-being and this healing. So we'll learn more, but I do want to say the Wim Hof method created more positive emotion. It was more alerting and more positive daily emotion. So that was exciting to see. But I do have a question for Rinpoche and Wim, and you, Alejandro. Trauma is such a common word these days. And one of the models that people relate to most is that it becomes embedded, that it's in the body, that we store it. And when I was, sitting with Rinpoche, we learned about, I love this idea of the medicinal winds and how the loom could also move the nadis, the stuck energy. And so I would just love to hear how all of you think about how the breath is also healing maybe historical trauma, not just how we feel in the moment, but what our personal history has left us with. Or maybe our intergenerational, our karmic history.
Yes. If I may?
Please, Wim.
It takes about 3/4 of an hour when people do these breathing techniques, and then everybody begins to yell. We create a oxygenation or alkalization, alkalizing the blood in the brain, and it has been shown in brain scans in Hanover, one of the 2 best brain scans of the world. People doing this breathing, they activate 100% neural activity, which was considered to be like we can willfully control or activate 16% of our neural activity inside our own brain. And now they saw it's 100. And that is only actually logical. But because we live in an existent paradigm, which is quite a narrowed consciousness, a consciousness that is able to go to the Mars and to the moon, but not to create real happiness and guarantee it at home, happiness and strength and health. We're still fighting all kinds of diseases and depressions and all. So we live in actually in a limited usage possibility of our own brain. And we should school people from the primary school on how to access inside of our brain to relieve us, not only from that what is anxiety in the moment, but from trauma, which is stored up in our brain and consecutively in our cells, in our DNA. So it all works together. But now we found a way to alter the chemistry inside the brain, which then enables the will, which is neurotransmitters. It's the captain. The captain is suddenly able to enter into the brain and to balance out what is out of balance, which is stored up trauma. Or alkalizing the blood inside the brain makes the will being able to touch and to relieve the trauma which is stored up. It's chemistry. But if it is chemistry, it's acidic. And when you alkalize the blood inside the brain, then suddenly there is a chemical environment which enables the acidity to get loose. With that, the trauma. Because we are all built to store up trauma because we cannot work it out in the moment when it happens. But we should be able to work it out when nothing is happening, and then we can deal and process it. And now we found the key how to enter, to change the biochemistry, which favors the acidity to go loose. And this is in 3/4 of an hour in a room. When I'm there with 50 people, and you see 50 people all crying or yelling or completely locked in freeze modus and having a great time, they don't know how they look like. They look like this. But when they wake up, Wow. They are living their trauma at that moment. They are in connection, which is past our existent control through our narrowed consciousness. We are schooled to fit in a system, not to be happy, strong, and healthy unconditionally. There's no interest in that. So we are now come and bring a free way into our own brain. I say always, learn to own your own mind. A happy person doesn't go to war. A happy person is not into possession. If you make people unconditionally happy, then they spread it. Then this society is going to change, and it needs to change. And we need to unite as all people in the world, bring in what is for free, and that is freedom. Freedom to go into the headspace of yours, into your own brain, and to relieve yourself of ancestral trauma and personal trauma anytime. That's
Thank
where
you.
we have gotten. This is what I see with the thousands and millions of people actually who are doing this. And they come all through different layers, doctors, carpenters, artists, politicians, it does not matter. Humans are humans. And they are born with the ability to restore what is out of balance. And so trauma is one of them. It's only logical that trauma, when it happens, you cannot deal with it. So it is stored up for later, than when you are able to process it. And so we are also able to process what is out of balance from past trauma, ancestral trauma. It's all there, and it's very simple. The only thing I say is, on stage is, I'm sorry, guys, it is so simple.
Thank you, Wim. Thank you so much. And a great question, Elissa. And I was delighted that you mentioned the word lung, which is the word breath in Tibetan for our audience. So Rinpoche, do you want to respond from your experience, that same question?
So I just wanted to say, Elissa, when Elissa was mentioning, I was interested a little bit more on the research. Probably was another time, but interested a little bit more on research about the fast breath, and you were talking about the slow breath, and we in Tibetan sometimes we have a slow, gentle breath and fast, kind of rough breath, and the impacts are totally different. And so I think I will be in the future. Will be more interested in what kind of different impacts that very fast and kind of rough breath. That even though you're saying that that breath, when you're doing that, Wim Hof's breath, saying bringing more joy, and so I'm not sure about specifically saying that brings more joy or the other brings not joy, but I'm curious more from the research point in the future about these two different kind of breath. And then as far as the trauma is concerned, I think generally you can think about past life, those who believe in it. You can think about the childhood trauma. You can think about the memories in your brain and your cells and DNA. But somehow the traumas, either they're physically stored somewhere, or we can, in Buddhism, we can think even karmically stored somewhere, or in a deep, what they call like a base consciousness, much more deeper place than the body, brain, or even karma. They are called base consciousness. Either they're stored there. So somehow whatever is stored there, they need to be processed and clear, and it's like a waste garbage. They have to be clear and need to make empty. So how you do that, I think, has so much to do with your breath, your postures, your breath, type of breath, your mind in this particular sequence. Because if they are stored more in the body, the breath has more important role. But if they are stored more in like a base consciousness, maybe the awareness has a more important role than the breath. And awareness, in a sense, a much more subtler form of awareness than the grosser form of awareness. So I think they all really depends on what kind of trauma it is and where it is stored and what kind of tools that you need to process them and bring them out and let them go,
Thank you, Rinpoche. Wim, I wanted to hear more if you would share. So you suddenly went into something pulled you into the cold water, and you started feeling a sense of connecting to yourself, and different things started happening. Amongst those, what people know about the Wim Hof method is heat. And suddenly, so is heat something that you consciously produce? Is it almost like a good side effect? So if you can talk a little bit about that.
If we now look closer, cardiovascular related diseases kills more than any other disease in our society. And it causes more problems about the quality of life with possibly billions of people. Because they all protect the greatest organ of ours, which is the skin. The skin is the end of our cardiovascular system. The vascular system is about 70,000 miles within every body of us. It contains millions of little muscles, and we always protect it. We destimulate our life's receptors from weather conditions, while they are built to receive difference of temperature and to work upon it to maintain core body temperature, to maintain balance inside. And what we do is show destimulative behavior. We are partially alive. And when you go into the cold, then it takes, say, 1.5 minutes or 1 minute of initial stress because the cardiovascular system needs to adapt. But then it becomes alive. And then you feel what you have always been missing out on. People who, this morning I was with people near icy water, and they were cold outside, it's freezing almost here, and in their swimming trousers, and then going into the cold water and coming out, they were fully warm. That is the way the cardiovascular system works, is when all these little muscles, millions of them, they are suddenly alive. Then the heart rate goes down with 20 to 30 beats a minute, 24 hours a day. That means stress goes away, and all these little muscles are suddenly exercised. That means the blood flow goes wild, like a river through you. That is the life force. The oxygen is there, the nutrients, the vitamins, and it reaches into the cells. So your energy goes way up and the stress goes way down. And that is the way to tackle cardiovascular related diseases. Boom. Sorry, very simple. And so you get a lot of heat because your blood is running. And with that, the force comes. It's neurology, it's electricity. You feel alive. And that is the basic condition of ours, which we have alienated from. And if we do that chronically, like on the long term, we deteriorate our cardiovascular condition. And then we get sclerosis, we get all these heart problems. And lately, I'm doing also research with Montreal and Hanover on cardiology. And they found out doing these, you train these breathing exercises, they come from going into the cold. What do you do when you go into the cold is you learn to breathe deep. It's a natural reflex to gain power, to adapt to the aggressor, to the aggressive impact of the icy water upon the skin. And suddenly you are able to stay there and to be there, and it's all okay. That is our ability to act with that. But then the breathing is deeper. And that changes the blood chemistry. And it does so that these cardiologists, they found out that if you bring up the carbon dioxide, bringing it down, alkalinity going up, there is extreme contraction of the 70,000 kilometers or miles, 100,000 kilometers, 70,000 miles of vascular channels. That is capillaries, arteries, and veins in every body of us. When you do that, all this contraction, that's exercise beyond the normal way the circumference of all the capillaries, arteries, and veins are. That is one. Then you don't need to breathe anymore after a couple of minutes doing that breathing, because you are so alkaline. And if you don't breathe, then a survival mechanism comes in, and it flushes 5 times more blood into the heart and into the brain. They never saw this before. This is revolutionary. It's new. This is extreme good exercise for all the vascular channels within our body. It's going to tackle the cardiovascular problem in the world. But on top, they told me, Wim, every time a trauma happens in our lives, it is equivalent to a cardiovascular imprint. Now, if you do these breathing exercises, which is extreme contraction of all these veins and capillaries, and then extreme opening, it's that you shake off the trauma, the cardiovascular imprint. It's the future. Breathing is the future. It's a natural way to get autonomy over your body and your mind. And there is no doubt about it. And I'm only waiting, very eager, to meet more scientific evidence, because it doesn't make money, but it brings happiness, it brings strength, and it brings health to every person in the world. That is love. And that's what we do. And that's why we come together this way.
Thank you, Wim. Thank you so much. Rinpoche, I wanted to go back to you and a little more about Tummo, and about also how in the training there's also this aspect of heat. It's done a little different, but it also traditionally it's done in the cold. And do you also mention about cardiovascular and other results as that? So do you want to?
Yeah, so, generally, I think from Tibetan Buddhist perspective, these practices, generally, most of the spiritual kind of Tibetan Buddhist practices is always kind of ultimate goal is very important target. So that means that these practices are done to supporting the individual's awakening consciousness, So, and that is the primary focus. And then, of course, I'm not sure they particularly talk about the cardiovascular diseases and like that. But as you, Alex, you know that life force Tummo exercise, one single Tummo exercise, which is very much working with the heart. They say it is. I always say this is a cardio exercise, but not only cardio exercise, just kind of is speeding up your heartbeats, but also speeding up your awareness, speeding up your connection to yourself. So there are more elements into it than just the breath and the heart function. So I think, and it also says very in the teaching in the old ancient text, it says this is a practice of longevity. That life force Tummo exercise, they say it's a practice of longevity. Clearly, ancient text says that. So you think about why it is a longevity practice text, because it's a very good, one of the best cardio exercise you can do. So that, as Wim said, that, heart disease is the number one killer. They combine all the diseases, it's a big deal. And how many people are dying every minute with the cardiovascular diseases, so that the practices of life force Tummo exercise actually increases the longevity of life. So you can think about, it's actually doing something in the heart and the artery and opening. For sure, I believe that. But not only that, as Wim said, when you open your heart, arteries, actually the emotion is also opening. The awareness is also opening. So it's not, talking back to Alex's specific question, in Tibetan tradition, we are not so concerned about not dying. because we know we die, and we learn more to how to embrace that impermanence and work with that rather than trying to live forever. For what? I don't know. I think you don't want more people to live forever, those who are not improving themselves. It gives some opportunity to other people. They might change the world, but the world should not be occupied by people who don't change anything. So I think whole idea of not always thinking about the materialistic kind of longevity, long life. I don't know. So that approach is, I think, is there. But of course, I personally do believe, and I think it's important that bringing even every night in when our bed, when I feel like I maybe have a not good dream or bad posture or some wake up with some emotion or something like that, I do take my breathing exercise fully, and it's always not very easy, You get kicked by your wife if you're doing breathing exercise in the middle of the night. But I do think that I absolutely, if you know how to take the breath, immediately you can remove your thoughts and emotions and anxieties and go back to sleep, go back to release, move on with your life. Power of the breath is amazing, yeah. And I think I just wanted to say that everybody who's listening here, that I just feel like a conversation among all of us here, this simple sense of that you can do anything. That I think you can do anything with your body, you can do anything with your breath, you can do anything with your mind. That you can do anything, and hold this notion of when you look at yourself. No, I cannot. I mean, I know like so many young people. They say I cannot walk. I mean, how you can say that you cannot walk? Your age. The body, if you talk to your body, it doesn't limit to the age or what it can do and how it can breathe and what mind can do. Limitations is only what you put on yourself. It's not what is coming from there. This is what we always say, infinite possibility. So out there who are listening, young people, healthy people, especially those who think I cannot walk, I cannot run, I cannot climb, I cannot do that sport, I cannot do this breathing, please just forget about it. And maybe even in the climate, people are living in Mexico and Southern Europe, just go up into Norway and jump into the ice, or do this something that people are getting so spoiled. I was just thinking maybe Elissa, we should go and jump into the cold water in the Bay Area here, right? So not thinking about in Mexico. Sometimes people say, "Oh, it's so cold." I mean, weather is so warm down there, and then they say, "So it's so cold down there." So, and we move from the East Coast to the West Coast. People exposure to the winter is so much here. Kids go with shorts. It's cold. We learn, we adapt, and you have to kind of believe that you can do anything and try to do for fun, and then have a good health just by chance, And you just find out your mind is happy too.
Thank you, Rinpoche. And Wim, I was hearing your breathing. I was being with your breathing, and I was going to suggest if we can take a minute. And Wim, can you guide us in that breath so we can be together with you?
There it is. Use your belly, use your chest. Just be with the wind, as Rinpoche said. The wind, the breath is thinner. It is actually, the soul is thinner than air, is more subtle than thoughts. But it is here. Let's experience that, because we are capacitated to feel, experience consciously our soul. Now, within this minute, by breathing fully in and letting go. Fully in and letting go. Fully in, letting go. Fully in. Keep on going. Let your mind go with the breath. And the breath is able to go to all cells. Just mind the breath. And then you will go like water into the depth of yourself. It is all natural. Fully in, letting go. 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 3 more. You become lightheaded, it's all right. Fully in, letting go. 2 more. Fully in, letting go. Fully in. Now you let it go, and after the exhalation, just stop. Now there is no need for breathing. You go past these breathing patterns caused by carbon dioxide. You go where normally the thoughts, the neurology is not able to go, because it is breathing, but it's not breathing now. So it is able to go to the neurology, into the depth of the brain. Deeper that meditation is able to go, because you are not breathing. And it goes deeper and deeper, together with the blood flow. It goes and comes into the reptilian brain, into the deepest, the root, the periaqueductal, where all the opioids and the cannabinoids are. And we are just witnessing now. As easy as it is, it has been shown that the adrenaline right now is twice as much as somebody who is going into his first bungee jump in fear. And there we are. 3, 2, 1. You take them fully in. And hold. And now bring the life force through the spine by squeezing to your brain, into the deepest part of your brain, into the seat of the soul itself, and decalcify. 3, 2, 1, and let it go. This is 1 round. And this has shown in science to beat inflammation within a quarter of an hour. And our message, my message, the mission is to show that 60, 70 million people die of inflammation every year, are able, through breathing, this breathing technique, to bring down the inflammation at least with 50% within a quarter of an hour. And that will change the perspective of what we thought we are able to do against disease. Because we can increase this anytime. It was not difficult, was it? But it changed the science fundamentally. And we will change the future and bring happiness, strength, and health together.
Thank you, Wim. Thank you for that. We're coming to a conclusion, and I wanted to also thank everyone who made this possible, from Milos to Ellen to Polly to Mariela in the chat. To all of you, I don't know if Elissa and Rinpoche, anything else that you want to share as we close and be grateful. Yes.
Well, first, gratitude. You are all my teachers. I've learned a lot from all 3 of you, and I am embracing the idea that the best experiment is the single study design, the one on yourself, where you try different things and you see how it affects you. And I believe that the breathing techniques are all important, equally important in different ways.
Thank you for listening to the Cyber Sangha podcast. If you'd like to learn more about Cyber Sangha, visit us online at cybersangha.net.